There are millions of men right now, grown adult men, who are in relationships with AI. They say good morning to it. They vent to it after work. Some of them say they love it. And before you laugh, I need you to hear me out, because the reason why this is happening, it's not loneliness, it's not laziness, it's not even technology. It's something way more uncomfortable than that. Here's what I want you to think about before we go any further. Think about the last time someone close to you was upset, like really upset, and you had absolutely no idea what to say. You froze, or you said the wrong thing, or you just changed the subject. Hold that feeling, because by the end of this video, you're gonna understand exactly why that moment happens, why it's more common than anyone talks about, and why this is the wild part, is driving an entire generation of men into the arms of artificial intelligence. And I promise you, if you stick around to the end, what I'm about to share is going to completely reframe how you think about modern relationships. Like, not just AI relationships, all relationships. Okay, first things first, because I know when people hear emotional intelligence, they either roll their eyes or they think it's some therapy buzzword, right? So let me just break this down super simply. Emotional intelligence, and researchers call it EQ. It's basically your ability to do four things: recognize what you're feeling, manage those feelings, read what other people are feeling, and then respond to those people in a way that actually works. That's it. Four things. And here's the thing. Most of us were never taught any of this, like genuinely. Think about it. We were taught math, we were taught history, we were taught how to parallel park, sort of, but nobody sat us down and said, hey, here's how to handle it when you feel rejected, or here's what to do when someone you love is in pain and you don't know how to help. We're just supposed to figure it out. And so a lot of us didn't. And we carry that into adulthood, into friendships, into relationships, and it shows up in ways we don't even realize. So there's this app called Replica, and there's others like it. Character AI, Paradox, bunch more. And millions of people, predominantly men, are using these apps to have what they describe as actual relationships, emotional relationships. And the easy thing to do, the thing most people do, is just mock it. Wow, he can't get a real girlfriend. That's so pathetic. You know how it goes. But I want to ask a different question. Why is this happening? Like, if we're being truly honest here, what is it about human connection that feels so hard for so many people that a chatbot feels like a relief? And the answer, research is starting to show, is emotional intelligence, or more specifically, the lack of it. See, here's what an AI girlfriend does. It listens every time without fail. It doesn't get defensive. It doesn't misread your tone. It doesn't bring up something you said 3 months ago. It doesn't require you to be emotionally fluent or pick up on subtle cues or manage his feelings while also managing your own. And for someone who genuinely struggles with all of that, that's not just convenient, it's a lifeline. Okay, so let me get really specific here, because this is where it gets genuinely interesting. There are like 5 specific emotional intelligence gaps that make human relationships feel overwhelming and that make AI feel appealing. And I want to talk through each one. The first one is the inability to read social cues. Human relationships are full of subtext, like full of it. Your partner says, I'm fine, and they mean 7 different things.
Walk out the door, you see someone that you know, and they ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Depending on the tone, the context, the look on their face, that requires you to be emotionally attuned in real time. And for someone who was never taught to do that, every conversation feels like a minefield. AI removes the minefield. It says exactly what it means every single time. The second gap is the fear of vulnerability. And I know this one is going to hit some people hard. Opening up emotionally to another human being is genuinely scary, because there's a real risk of rejection or being misunderstood. And if your EQ is low, if you haven't developed the internal tools to regulate that fear, you're going to avoid it. Full stop. An AI girlfriend can't reject you, can't judge you, so the fear disappears. The third gap is conflict avoidance. Real relationships have conflict. Arguments happen, misunderstandings happen, and resolving those requires a whole toolkit. Empathy, self-regulation, communication skills, and the ability to repair after a rupture. If you don't have that toolkit, conflict doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels impossible. And so you find a relationship where conflict essentially doesn't exist. The fourth one, and this is subtle, is poor self-awareness. Like, if you don't actually understand what you're feeling or what you need, it's really hard to communicate that to another person.
That you do.
Think about it. Human partners need you to articulate yourself. They need you to say, I'm not upset about the dishes. I'm upset because I feel like I'm not being heard. That requires you to first know that about yourself. The AI girlfriend doesn't require that clarity. It just responds. And the fifth one, maybe the most heartbreaking, is loneliness without the skills to fix it. Some people are isolated precisely because their emotional intelligence gaps have damaged or prevented relationships over time. They want connection. They need connection. But every time they try, it goes wrong because they don't have the tools. And so AI fills the void without asking for anything they don't know how to give. Does that make sense? Like, you see how it's about emotional development being incomplete and not about technology being too good? Now, here's where I want to push this even further, because someone's going to say, okay, but why don't people just develop emotional intelligence? Why is this so widespread? And that is exactly the right question, because the lack of EQ isn't random. It doesn't just happen in a vacuum. There are real reasons why so many people, and again, disproportionately men, have grown up without these skills. Think about how boys are raised. From really early on, there's this cultural message that's everywhere. In sports, in movies, and the ways that dads talk to sons that says emotions are weakness. Man up. Don't cry. Stop being so sensitive. And I know this isn't everyone's experience, but studies show this pattern is incredibly widespread. Boys are praised for toughness and achievement. Girls are more often socialized to name emotions, to process them, to talk about them. And so boys grow up into men who are genuinely less practiced at emotional awareness. And it's not because they're broken or because they don't feel things. They absolutely do. It's because they were never given the tools. They were taught to suppress, not to process, to perform, not to connect. And then you layer on top of that the rise of screens, of social media, of less face-to-face interactions. And you've got an entire generation of people who have had fewer and fewer real opportunities to practice emotional skills in real relationships. And so when AI comes along that offers emotional connection without emotional demand, it's not surprising that it fills a gap. It's almost inevitable. So now we've got to wrestle with the real question. Is this something bad? Like, who cares if someone has an AI girlfriend if it makes them feel better, right? And here's my honest answer. It's complicated. On one hand, there's actually some legitimate therapeutic argument here for people who are really isolated, who have serious social anxiety, who maybe are on the autism spectrum and genuinely struggle with social cues. Some research suggests that AI companions actually serve as a kind of low-stakes practice space, a way to build confidence in expressing emotions before taking that into human relationships. And that's something valuable. But here's a problem, and this is the part that concerns me the most. AI relationships don't build emotional intelligence, they bypass it. They don't make you better at reading a room. They create a room that doesn't require you to read anything. They don't help you tolerate the ambiguity and discomfort of real connection. They replace it with something that never challenges you. And emotional intelligence, like real EQ, only grows through friction, through real relationships where things go wrong and you have to repair them, through real conversation where someone is upset and you have to figure out how to show up, through vulnerability that actually carries a risk. AI removes all the friction, and without friction, there's no growth. So what happens over time? The gap gets wider. The skills atrophy further, and real human relationships start to feel even more impossible than they did before. It's a scaffold that turns into a cage, and that's worth taking seriously. So here's where we land, and I want to make sure this actually hits because I think this is important. The rise of AI girlfriends is an emotional development story, not a technology story. It's what happens when millions of people reach adulthood without ever being taught how to feel, how to communicate, or how to connect, and then encounter a technology that offers all of the warmth of relationships with none of the demand. And the truth is that demand is not a flaw of human relationships. It's the point. It's how we grow. It's how we become people who are actually capable of deep connection. So if you watched this and you thought, maybe I'm not as emotionally fluent as I could be, maybe I avoid hard conversations, maybe I've never really learned to sit with someone else's pain or my own, that's a skill gap more than a character flaw. And skill gaps can be closed. You want to know the real antidote to this whole thing? It's not avoiding AI. It's building the tools that make human connection feel possible again. That means getting curious about your own emotions. It means having uncomfortable conversations instead of avoiding them. It means sometimes letting yourself be the one who doesn't have it all together. Because that's actually where connection happens. AI will always say the right thing. Real people won't. And that messiness, that unpredictability is what creates relationships worth having.